In time, I've become well acquainted with the word monotony. Moving to the big city of Miskatown right after college was allegedly going to solve all my problems. Move on out to Miskatown, son. The culture is as rich as a bottle of Veuve Clicquot. You'll make so many connections, have so many opportunities. Go on, live a little. So they said, anyway. And for a time, things were alright. I was able to get a stable job working with my childhood passion of video games. I was an editor and journalist for a column in the city paper that kept up with the latest releases and innovations in the world of gaming. The column was mildly successful, hanging in a bit of a critic limbo where the reviews weren't low enough for it to be terrible, but mediocre enough to keep me from getting anything more prestigious in the same field. My circle of associates was small. All of my buddies from high school were miles away now, and I couldn't seem to really click with anyone on a decent level in my newfound adulthood. A couple nights out with some of the guys from the office over a beer or two, maybe a viewing party for the latest LCS game being broadcast for League of Legends, and that was about it. I felt a bit out of touch with the ideals of the city lifestyle. Everything was moving a mile a minute. It was difficult for me to deal with. After a time, I just stopped trying. I would do my 9 to 5 and go home right away. I'd boot up one of the latest video game titles released at the time and just binge for hours. I was in a spiral of the dauntingly mundane of my own creation. Inexperience and underexposure to my new environment was stunting my social growth. However, it was the same stunted growth that led me to become more reserved. I stuck to the few things I was comfortable with. The same job, the same route to work, the same places to eat, and you get the idea. My luck started to change for the better through a bit of news through the grapevine. A new gaming-focused website called Twitch was seemingly blowing up overnight. It was an outlet where anyone could broadcast their live video gameplay sessions over the internet to potential audiences of viewers. Interested, I decided to conduct a bit of hands-on research on the website over the course of several months, documenting aspects of the community and areas of potential growth. I figured, since I came home and played video games during the night anyway, why not? I could kill two birds with one stone, gathering new material for my gaming articles in the column, and, perhaps, adding a much-needed twist to my daily routines. My first few streams were very unassuming. Not many viewers, just a couple of the guys stopping by from work to check up on me. I was a bit awkward in front of the camera at first, and admittedly didn't do well in my narrations of the gameplay, as I was primarily a writer, not a public speaker. Though as time went on, I started to enjoy myself. More and more people were stopping by to check out the stream. Many more even returning the next night, and the next, and the next after that. I fairly attribute most of this to local advertisement of my stream through my paper, but for a tiny percentage of my growing success on this platform, I can attribute to myself as well. Soon, every night the words and conversation just flowed naturally. My stage presence was improving and people seemed to be genuinely interested in what I had to say. One night, I noticed a much larger than usual showing.
His exact history is unclear, but it is known for certain that Sol's real name is Frederick. Originally, he was a scientist who majored in magic particle physics, and was previously working on a project known as Saint Oratorio, before he joined the core team of the Gear project. He was not only one of the lead scientists of the Gear project, but is also the prototype Gear from over 100 years before the events of the Guilty Gear games. In 2016, after he received the devastating news of Arya's illness, he is betrayed by his colleague and close friend, Asuka R. Kreutz, who forcibly has him converted into the first prototype Gear. Somehow, he managed to escape the lab and tried to discover a means to return to his human form, leading him to creating his trademark headband. His headband is actually a gear suppression device, which prevents him from giving into his gear nature and losing his rationality, at the cost of suppressing much of his power. The headband also conceals the red brand on his forehead, the telltale mark that would expose him as a gear. As a prototype, he is immune to the orders of Commander-type gears. He was personally acquainted with that man prior to the Crusades. In Guilty Gear 2 Overture, this headband suppression device seems to be beginning to malfunction, explaining the increase in Sol's strength. That man later explains the malfunction and Sol's increase in power is due to his body and powers evolving. Alright, this is Guilty Gear Sol Badguy, paragraph 2. After he had constructed the limiter headguard to maintain his human form, he made it his personal mission to destroy all gears so that they could not be used for war. He destroyed several gear plants, which would eventually earn him the designation Bad Guy, as authorities could not identify him. When he got news of the completion of justice, he created the Outrage in response, which he called a supreme anti-gear weapon. The Outrage is actually not one weapon, but several. 8 components called Jinki, Sacred Treasures, which greatly amplify their wielder's magical ability. The reason the Outrage was split into the 8 Sacred Treasures is because the power of the complete Outrage was far too cumbersome for Frederick to control, as it had no predetermined limits to how much mana it could generate, and could potentially destroy the world if its power was not properly regulated. Only 4 Outrage weapons are currently known to be active. Sol's own Fuenken, Fire Seal, that he combined with Senga, the Flashing Tooth, to create the Junkyard Dog in K3, Kai's Furaiken, Thunder Seal, and Anshimito's twin fans, Zensen, Unparalleled Fans. The other 3 are supposedly in the custody of the United Nations, and Slayer is also in possession of an unknown sacred treasure. This is Guilty Gear Sol Badguy, paragraph 3. Frederick also saved Cliff Anderson, one of the leaders of the Holy Order, and the one who named Kai Kisuke, leader of the Holy Knights, when Cliff was still a young boy. He would later encounter the Nightwalker, Slayer, who would bestow upon him the name Sol, and would act as a mentor of sorts. Roughly half a century later, he was himself recruited into the Order as a bounty hunter named Sol Badguy. Sol took part in the Crusades, ironically becoming one of the best fighters on the human side. At this time, he was a member of the Sacred Order of Holy Knights, Seiki Shidan. He acquired the nickname Corrupted, or Immortal Flame, Haitoku no Hono, during that time, a name that such figures as Ino and Justice used for him later. However, He later became disenchanted with the methods of the Sacred Order. At an unspecific time, Sol fled the Order, taking with him the Fuengen, which the Holy Knights had come to consider a sacred treasure. The theft earned him Kaikisuke's enmity. Ironically, Sol himself forged the Fuengen. Paragraph 4 of Guilty Gear Sol Badguy. In 2175, Sol faced Justice directly. The two fought, and Justice won, also discovering that Sol was a gear, but not his true identity as a prototype gear. Justice attempted to assert her power as a command gear to control Sol, but was unable to do so. Exploiting her confusion from the fight, the Holy Order, led by Kaikisuke, sealed Justice away, bringing the war to an end.
You focus on the wrong shit. Why these niggas talk shit? I pull out my car, then I pull up to the stars, bitch. She wanna go far shit. I be on my Mars shit. You know I be soaring. They see me, I be scoring.